All right, so in this video, we're just going to practice and review writing an exponential function from a graph and a table. We did this in class on Thursday, April 8th, but if you missed class or didn't quite understand it, let's go over it now. So look at the table to the right and identify the following. First, we're identifying the y-intercept. The y-intercept is always when our x is equal to 0. So when our x is equal to 0, our y is equal to 3. So my y-intercept is 3. My ratio here is when I'm looking at how my y value is changing. So how did I go from 6 to 3? And 3 to 1/2? Well, I multiplied by 1/2. When we're thinking of a ratio, we're always thinking of something we're multiplying by. We're not thinking of division. So if you're dividing by 2, that's the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. If your y values are getting smaller as your x values are getting larger, you should have a fraction for your ratio. All right, so now we need to write an equation, and we're looking to write an exponential equation. And remember that an exponential equation is always in the form of f of x equals a times b to the power of x. Well, a is our y-intercept here, so that's 3, and our b is 1/2. So our equation would be f of x is equal to 3, our a term, multiplied by 1/2, our b term, to the power of x. Okay, now let's look at this table. What is my y-intercept? Here my y-intercept is 2 because that's when my x is equal to 0. And when my x is equal to 0, my y is equal to 2 for this function. So how can I find my ratio? Well, again, I'm looking at how my y values are changing. That's how I'm going to determine my ratio. In this table, I'm going from 2 to 8 and then 8 to 32. Well, how did I do that? Well, I multiplied by 4. 2 multiplied by 4 gives me 8. 8 multiplied by 4 gives me 32. So my ratio here is 4. Now I need to write an equation. Again, my equation is always going to be in the form of f of x equals a times b to the power of x, where a here is 2 because that's my y-intercept according to this table, and my ratio is 4. So I would have f of x is equal to 2 multiplied by 4 to the x power. Now I want you to pay attention here. This is not the same thing as 8 to the power of x, because you always have to do your exponents first. So the number with the exponent is going to stay that number with the exponent until you find out what the exponent is. Then the last thing you would do is multiply by 2. So 2 times 4 to the power of x is not the same thing as 8 to the power of x. All right, now looking at the graph, identify the following. So now we're just looking at this graph here. What is my y-intercept? Where does this graph cross the y-axis? Well, it's at 1. So my y-intercept is 1. Now, how can I find my ratio? How did I go from 1 to 4? Right? How did I have a y value of 1 and then have a y value of 4 on my next x point? Well, I went from 0, 1 to 1, 4, which means that my ratio here is going to be 4. So now to write my equation, I'm going to have f of x is equal to 1, which is my y-intercept, times 4 to the power of x. Now here, you don't have to have that 1. It is possible that you would not have that. It is likely that you will not have that y-intercept listed if it is in fact 1. All right, look at the graph below and identify the following. And again, it's just to the right, but you know what I mean. So here, my y-intercept is 1. Okay, even though my coordinates are not listed or numbered, I'm going to assume that it's just going up by 1s, 2s, and 3s. My ratio, well, let's see. I have a function, and this function is looking like it's declining. It looks like it's going down. And I know that because as my x value is increasing, my y values are decreasing. So this is showing exponential decay, that my numbers are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I should be looking for a ratio that is going to be greater than 0 and less than 1, or a fraction. Okay, because a fraction is less than 0, is greater than 0, but less than 1. All right, so to go from 3 to 1, in my head I would think, well, I multiply or divided by 3. But when I'm talking about ratios, I have to think of what I'm multiplying by. So I would have a multiplied by 1/3. So that's my ratio, is 1/3. And anytime I have exponential decay, my b term should be a ratio. Should be a fraction, is the word I'm looking for. So my f of x would be equal to 1 multiplied by 1/3 to the power of x. Okay, this should help you be successful with the exit ticket. Make sure you take that exit ticket. If you've missed the window for the exit ticket, please go to tutoring or ask Mr. Shagway to reopen that exit ticket so you can improve that grade. Bye, have a great day.